You know who storms the field? Kansas storms the field. Stay behind in the stands where you belong.
A panel of Louisiana sports experts giving you the hot takes all season long. Michael Cauble, Matt Moscona, and Shea Dixon. This is Sports Takeover.
Hey, good evening and welcome into Sports Takeover. I'm Michael Cauble, joined by Shea Dixon of On3.com, the Bengal Tiger, and Matt Moscona of After Further Review on ESPN Radio here in Baton Rouge. We're excited to join you following a big Tiger victory. The LSU Tigers heading to Starkville and taking care of business really right from the jump. In a game that a lot of us didn't know what to expect from the Bulldogs, it was clear that that team was not ready for LSU. It doesn't look like they're ready for anything. Matt, you talked about it. You weren't afraid. You thought Will Arnett was a joke. And, man, that was the most discombobulated offense I have seen in a long time in the SEC.
Will Arnett, good jokester, comedian. Zach Arnett, the coach at Mississippi State, not a good coach. Probably not a good comedian either.
That's a layup.
That one, it was so easy. I mean, just a bump set spike. But, yeah, Mississippi State, they have taken Will Rogers, a quarterback that's known for 11,000 yards in his career, and turned him into a complete and total non-factor. LSU did exactly what they should have done and proved the separation that exists between them and the middle lower tier of the league.
Let's get into it and talk about the offense. Certainly the straw that stirs the drink is Jaden Daniels, really with his best showing. According to head coach Brian Kelly, Jaden going 30 of 34, passing for 2 scores and rushing for 2 touchdowns as well. He was on point, and he had his favorite target, Malik Neighbors, working that. Shea, what did you see in Jaden?
I agree. Best game in purple and gold. 88% completion percentage and throwing it more than 30 times and not doing dump-offs. It's not like it's a fake percentage where it's a lot of very easy throws. It was going downfield, putting it in the breadbasket time after time. God, that 4th down call. Fourth and
7.
No worries.
4th and 7, and they throw a 33-yard
Just going to go right to the end zone right there. No big problem. So, yes, I completely agree with Kelly. That was – and he rushed it for 2 touchdowns and 60 yards. So,
not
got
bad
a little
work.
bit of everything.
The smart pulls here getting into the end zone. Brian Kelly talked about his quarterback's performance and really his progression.
You really look at it closely. Some of the things that maybe don't get the attention was his presence in the pocket and how many times he got hit after delivering, a great throw. Sometimes we cut it off and see the ball in the air, but you don't see the play all the way through. And made some great throws under duress. Those are NFL throws. Some of the ones that he made, not backing down, staying in the pocket, knowing that he was going to get hit and still delivering the ball with great accuracy.
That he did for sure, but it helps when you have targets like Malik Neighbors there to catch the ball. 13 receptions, just 2 touchdowns from Malik, SEC Offensive Player of the Week again with his quarterback, and this pair obviously developing that rapport. The thing about Malik that continues to shock me, Matt, is just his ability as a known commodity to still get open and make the plays, the big plays on 3rd down or on for touchdowns.
Malik's better than everybody. And he's the kind of guy that'll make a catch and step over you and let you know that he's better than you. And I love that. I love that dog in receivers. I took a lot of flack because after the Florida State game, I said that Malik would start over either of the guys from Florida State, Coleman and Wilson. And they were both awesome in that Florida State game. And there's no denying that. But you saw on Saturday why Malik Neighbors is projected to be a top half of round 1 pick. He can beat man coverage. He can beat you over the top. He can beat you on short underneath routes. He's physical. He'll make tough catches. He's awesome. He showed why.
9 of his 13 catches going for either a 1st down or a touchdown. He is awesome, and his head coach is happy to have him on the sidelines.
His ability to handle any coverage variations. He maintains space on the field. He carves out an opportunity to catch the ball. Many times we see defenders squeeze out offensive players. Malik is strong and physical as well, and he can hold his line and give the quarterback an opportunity. So hats off to both of those guys. Great work, and look to do the same. I don't know that there's any reason why they can't continue to play at that level.
You know, one of the interesting things was Malik kind of called his shots in our player interviews during the midweek. He talked about getting with Jaden and seeing some holes in that Mississippi State defense. Certainly, Shea, they did that. What impressed me the most was that Mason Taylor wasn't in the game plan and didn't play it down. And, you know, he has been kind of a safety blanket, you know, and an automatic conversion on third down for Jaden Daniels, but Malik became that guy, just huge once again.
Yeah, and I really liked what they did with the running backs in the passing game. Without Mason Taylor there as that safety valve, you're playing a true freshman in Mac Markway. You're not going to throw to him a ton. But Mike Denbrock, what he got? Logan Diggs involved, Josh Williams, Caleb Jackson came in and caught a pass and got called back on a hold, but 20-something yards, and then he delivers that dump truck moment. But all around, I thought that was one of the better called games from Denbrock since he's been here.
And Zach Arnett, not Will Arnett. Maybe Will Arnett was calling the offense, because that's one of the things that I thought. We're going to talk about the defense in a moment, but really that Mississippi State offense just helped LSU out tremendously, throwing the ball on the ground. Will Rogers, who I was thinking about, was pressured early and often in that one. As for LSU, just 2 for 2 on fourth down, but you guys alluded to it earlier in the show. 4th and 6, and you dial up a touchdown toss right into the end zone for 40-something yards.
And they were going to go for the 4th down and goal from the 1 on the first possession. They did. There was the penalty, and so they brought that one back, and they ended up kicking the short field goal. Brian Kelly's aggressiveness on 4th down is a little stunning. I asked him about it on Monday. I don't know if this was part of his history in South Bend, but in his 2 years in Baton Rouge, I mean, it's almost Milesian, how Les Miles would just go. I mean, like the Florida game is historic because they converted 5 of 5, but it was that willingness to just always go. And Brian Kelly doesn't seem to hesitate at all in these 4th downs.
No, Matt Moscona did ask Brian Kelly what goes into that decision-making process when you decide to roll the dice.
I think I use a combination of good sense in terms of what the game feels like. We use analytics, so I'm plugged into what the analytics are telling me relative to 4th down. And as you know, most of the analytics are much more aggressive than we are as we watch the game, right? 4th and 2 or 3 used to be considering a field goal inside the 10. Now it's almost 100% go for it. So I think it's a combination of getting a sense and feel for the game and how you feel like you might have control or not control of the game, plus the use of analytics. And then when you have a quarterback that is multidimensional, it really puts a defense in a bind. So I think we have those 3 factors working for us when we get to 4th down calls.
You know, Matt, the most interesting thing to me was what he was talking about with Jaden Daniels. Really, the duplicity of his action really opens up everything on 4th down. It makes a lot of sense why they're willing to roll the dice so much.
The 2 4th downs they didn't convert against Florida State, Brian Kelly called him out without calling him out. Jaden made the wrong read on zone reads. But that is the benefit you have when you have a quarterback that can run, that can give it. You can run RPOs. You have so many options there.
Keep the defense guessing. When we come back, we're going to talk about that LSU defense, their best performance, or maybe Mississippi State's woes. We'll talk about both next after this.
Sports Takeover will return after these messages. Now, back to Sports Takeover.
The guy that's really settled this for us in terms of, whoever he's been with has been Greg Penn. Greg's been outstanding. He's a settling factor out there for us. He gets guys lined up. He communicates very well. And that's a guy that we want to keep on the field.
Greg Penn stepping in big in week 3 with the absence of linebacker Omar Spates and maybe a little Wally Pipp action, because that 11 that LSU played was probably the best 11 that we saw. But of course, you do have to take into account how bad Mississippi State was in all of this. The Tiger defense coming out, playing with their hair on fire early, getting to the quarterback, pressuring the quarterback, and forcing some errant throws. Filling space, too. I think that was the one thing that we probably didn't see in the first couple of weeks from the secondary, the safety position specifically. Andre Sam there making a nice play. And really the linebacker position seeming to solidify. One of the big reasons LSU starting a freshman, Whit Weeks, the brother combination of West and Whit, and it was Whit seeing the field for the majority of the time, paying dividends for this Tiger defense. Coach Kelly talked about not being afraid to get the youngster out on the field early.
first of all, he has elite speed at the position. He can cover the field. He can run mistakes down. And when you can run mistakes down, that gives you a real advantage in terms of playing the position. The second thing is he sees an open gap, he's going to take it. You saw that early in the game. He shot the gap, TFL. He's got, obviously there's a learning curve there. There are some things that he did that, we're going to have to continue to work with. But when you have a guy that's that athletic, has a really good sense of pass coverage, he's not lost out there in pass coverage. And I would say that probably is the reason why he's out there, because he's not lost in anything. Can he get better in areas? Absolutely. And then he makes up for a lot of that with high-end athletic ability.
Shea, you're a guy that's looking at these guys when they're high schoolers. Did you think Witt would see the field this quickly?
Yeah, we had him as a top 100 guy. He was a top 10 linebacker in the country. His junior year at Coney County was good. His senior year, he was off the charts. And remember, West had come through that school. This is where Max Johnson went to school. Jake Johnson, his younger brother, was committed for a while. But there was no doubt at the Army Bowl or the All-American Bowl in January, he was the best player on the field on defense. So it was clear he could play.
Matt, can you keep him off the field, I guess is my question
The
now.
recruiting dude's got it absolutely right. Shea's been talking about Witt Weeks forever. Can you keep him off the field? No, but that doesn't mean necessarily he's going to start moving forward. Brian Kelly told you, Greg Penn is the centerpiece. He's got to be on the field. That was the answer when they moved Harold Perkins off. We all thought about it. Got 80 tackles a year ago as a rotational guy. He is your prototype 230-pound linebacker. Put him in the middle and keep fresh guys with Witt Weeks, with Omar Spates. You have West if you need him there as well. So you've got depth there.
It's the armchair coordinators and Monday morning quarterbacks that from a year ago put Greg Penn in the doghouse, which I thought for no reason. I mean, he was young and he was playing. Matt House trusted him to start every single game. Him and Baskerville carried them more or less. It reminds me so much of Damone Clark early in his college career. He ends up being a huge player for you later. This is back-to-back years now, Greg Penn starting. I'm with Brian Kelly. You do not take him off the field.
And because I think, agree with you, certainly is the fact that what it does for Harold Perkins, and now we're seeing a freer Harold able to make more disruptive plays. I think that's the key there. You're kind of finally settling into what you should look like on defense, and you're getting a little bit of help from the secondary, like we talked about. Major Burns had a great game. But again, you guys watched that ball game. How much of that was Mississippi State dysfunction, or was it LSU taking that next step?
The answer obviously is a little bit of both, but I think more than anything it's LSU finding what they are. Harold Perkins is disruptive when he's in the role we know he's great at. You saw a lot of Ryan Yates at free safety when they went to nickel packages. We're starting to learn where Andre Sam plays. Major Burns is probably better in the box than the nickel. These are all things that they're learning as they go out and play more games and more reps, which again, it'd be nice to have a week 0 game before you played Florida State. But you've learned it. Now you should continue to improve the same they did last year.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was about to say, we've made it through a defensive segment. We've not talked to corners. What a great thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and they played well. Again, watching that game, though, Will Rogers just looked like a man without a country. He didn't know what he was supposed to do with the ball and what their offensive coordinator was doing with the ball. I don't know either.
When they scored late, they reverted to a lot of the air raid principles. Yeah. Get up, sling it, timing, the things he's good at that he's done for his whole college career.
One thing that I thought LSU was good at this week and I hadn't seen previously was really taking the fight to the other team. There was a lot of trash talk in this one. The offensive line for LSU are expert trash talkers. I'll just tell you that right now when you're down on the field. But it was playing with that competitive edge that they have lacked for so much of this season, and something that Brian Kelly talked about specifically lacking in that Florida State game. Well, this week it was there, and I asked him if it was a point of emphasis heading into this game.
We're looking for gentlemen off the field, but not gentlemen on the field. Going back to what's the right mix. I want tough guys on the field that play the game the right way. I don't want to be, a team that's penalized and we hurt our team, but we want guys that have a toughness to them. And then off the field, we want gentlemen. We might have played like gentlemen both on the field and off the field, and that's not who we are, and I think we're trying to find that identity. I think we're getting closer to it.
Guys, you watched it on TV. Could you see any of that come through?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. The Harold Perkins fight on the first possession, the offsetting personal fouls. You mentioned Will Campbell getting the penalty as well and being taken out of the ball game. That was the most concerning part of the Florida State game, was early in that game, Florida State was punking you. Now, you were glad to take the 15 yards time and again, But it was just very clear they were the aggressor, and LSU was not. That changed on Saturday.
I liked Brian Kelly's, not just the gentleman thing, but afterwards when he said, he kind of gave the breakdown of Harold Perkins as the example, and he was like, it's such a fine line you have to walk between keeping your cool or Harold just punching somebody and getting kicked out of the game.
Well, in Florida, Tennessee, when dudes were legit breaking down in the box.
And those dudes legit
Don't go that far.
got suspended for
Yes,
the
they
next
did.
half as well. Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the freshmen we already did with Shea a little bit, but really an impact guy that's got all the chatter going this week here with his big lick that he's laying on offense. That's coming up after this.
Sports Takeover will return after these messages. Now, back to Sports Takeover.
I'm not afraid to play freshmen, but I'm going to play the best players. And if that is a freshman, I'm playing a freshman. If that's a graduate transfer, I'll play a graduate transfer. And I think our track record shows that the best players are going to play. And if you're a freshman and you can handle it mentally and physically, we'll put you on the field.
Yeah, 3 freshmen right there that did make the field and certainly made a difference in this one. Maybe no freshman, though, getting talked about more than Caleb Jackson. Guys, I know this is something you get all the time, Matt, on your radio show. Why isn't Caleb getting more playing time? We saw what he is capable of doing, and, I guess, should we let Brian Kelly answer why he's not getting playing time first, or should we just talk about it?
What's Brian Kelly about to say exactly?
He is about to say
Okay, I
what
won't
you're-
say that.
Because he's a gentleman on the field.
Yes, and a scholar.
Here's
everywhere.
my favorite part. I hope you rolled the hit in here. If not, everyone saw it.
Oh, yeah, let's
Is
hear.
the coaching moment after from Frank Wilson when he was like, you were still going. That's why that guy lit you up right afterwards.
The
It
play
was-
continues
play
because
continues.
Caleb does kind of stand there and
Just stood right
stare for a
over
minute,
him.
and then he gets rocked and he comes across. But no, I mean, Caleb's a difference maker. We're seeing it, and to me, Logan Diggs, obviously is the guy that you start, but Caleb, I think, has to get some of these touches that are going to these other running backs.
I'd like a word with Brian Kelly, if I could.
Okay.
After the scrimmage in Tiger Stadium, Caleb Jackson scored twice. He had 3 touches. They were all electric. And everybody said, wow, Caleb Jackson looks awesome. Got to get involved. And Brian Kelly he head patted all of us and said, well, it might have been some missed tackles and blah, 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 blah. No. We all watch a lot of football. You know when something looks different. It looks different when Caleb Jackson is running the ball. We all see it. Everybody sees it now. Yes, Brian Kelly's right. I'm going to hear him say it. Got to learn to block and all that stuff too. But it's not hard to do? Turn around and just give the ball to 28 and say, go run somebody over. And you got to do more of that.
Or as Shea alluded to, throw the ball to him. Brian did talk about the steps necessary for Caleb to see more playing time on the field.
The obvious answer is physicality, explosiveness, but a young man that is still learning how to play this game. Remember now, if you look back on his high school career, he was not a 4-year player even in high school. So, he's learning how to play the game every time he steps on the field. And he's terrific to coach. I mean, the great part about it is he doesn't have much baggage. He's learning a lot about the game as we go along. We're talking to him about some of the rules as it relates to kickoff. If the impetus of the ball goes into the end zone and it hits you, you don't have to take it out. These are foreign things to him. So, just teaching him the game and him learning the game is kind of where we're at with him. But it's easy to see the raw physical ability, but there's so much more to that. And I know you did. You watched the game closely. You saw what Diggs and Williams were able to do in third down protections against a very difficult scheme. Caleb's not ready for that. He will get ready for that, but he's just not there yet.
Teach him a play and let him go, huh, Matt?
Just give him the ball.
Just give him the damn
run.
ball.
Here's the ball. Run.
This is
Go.
why we talk about, I do, all the time, track times being important. Caleb Jackson runs a 10.5. It shows whenever he gets 10 yards, do you see how fast he gets going?
He outran the
And
whole
runs away.
secondary in that scrimmage, Shay. That's the point. And
They
Brian
were
Kelly
missing
said, "No, they
tackles."
missed tackles." Yeah, and then he outran cornerbacks. He's 230 pounds. Run. Here.
And
Run.
He's super fresh.
fumbled it.
You hold on.
All right, we're not going to fumble this. We'll be back to close out the show after this.
Sports Takeover will return after these messages. Now, back to Sports Takeover.
Welcome back, everyone. LSU hosting Arkansas Saturday night in Death Valley, a 6 p.m. start on ESPN. Guys, your thoughts on the Hogs? They look like they're in trouble as well.
Usually an emotional letdown spot for LSU.
Victory against Mississippi State, and as Shea said, play some of their best football. Certainly they have that momentum and that belief going forward. We'll find out who suits up and plays for this one. We know Greg Brooks, of course, is out. He has what appears to be a very serious medical condition, and it'll be interesting to see, if he even plays the remainder of the season. Certainly, I think right now we're just wishing the best case scenario for him and his health and his family moving forward. Mason Smith, somebody that I'll be anxious to see if they see some PT or if they're just trying to rest him and get him better, because as you alluded to,
they've shifted offensive tackles at Arkansas. That's a problem. Harold Perkins could be big in this game on the edge.
All right, there it is. The Tigers and the Hogs, Saturday at 6 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.